It's been a while since I did one of my give and take videos, and let me tell you, this one's going to be a doozy.
Here's why the guy should always pay for the first date.
Oh, do tell.
Okay, so it's pre-date and post-date expenses.
Oh, good God. Not again with the pre and post date expenses. Good Lord, we still doing that lame ass shit? Okay. Let's hear this logic and reasoning, though. I suspect it's going to be anything but logical or reasonable.
I'm gonna start with pre-date. Guys, post-date, a lot more taxing. But the pre-date are pretty self-explanatory and they're probably unique to each person. These are the things a woman goes through to feel the most confident on a date. I don't want to hear in the comments like if this hits the wrong algorithm. We don't ask you to do those things. I don't give a fuck. We've been conditioned, and to feel most comfortable, we're gonna do these things.
You've been conditioned. Yeah, okay. But here's the question you don't want to answer. Who's the ones that have conditioned you? Well, that would be other women, including your mother, sister, your grandmother, your besties, and oh yeah, all the other women in the world who have conditioned you to be that way. Kind of sounds to me like that's on women, not men. So knowing that, why is it you expect men to be responsible for what is essentially your own self-created, condition?
It's making sure your nails are done. You like the way your hair looks. Taking the time to shave.
Well, I hate to break it to you, but none of that really matters all that much to men. We don't really care all that much about your hair and your nails. Well, no straight male in the history of mankind has really given two shits about them ever. So, now as to shaving, well, unless you're planning, let's call it a nightcap afterward, why would that be relevant? Especially on a first date. I mean, if having to shave is a requirement, then I think you're kind of telling us something. Which, by the way, is A-okay. I mean, if you're only looking for a little something, that's fine. But don't think that that's not going to send a real clear message to a man about whether or not you're worthy for a long-term relationship.
Last time I did something like this, somebody was like, no, the guy's coming to pick me up. I don't know how safe that is. I'd prefer to take the Uber and I'd prefer to have it on my account. It's the lack of feeling of safety when you're meeting a guy for the first time.
So let me get this straight. It's your choice to take an Uber for safety's sake instead of letting him pick you up. Okay, that's fine. And by the way, that's something I tell men to never do. Oh no, gentlemen, the last thing you should ever do as a man is pick a woman up, especially on a first date, and be in a car alone with her because, one, you may find out real fast she's not for you, and then you're stuck having to drive her home, and two, and far more important, you're putting yourself in a very dangerous situation. One where she could decide something you said or did, no matter how innocent, is creepy, and then go and file an allegation against you that you harassed her or worse. Hell, she could decide to do it simply because she can or you weren't willing to pick up her pre- and post-date expenses. Remember, gentlemen, false allegations are rampant. They've become a power trip for today's women, and it's not a risk you want to take. So no, gents, do not under any circumstances pick up a woman at her home for a date, especially a first date. Once you've had a few and can assess the risk, then things can change. Now, setting that aside, let's get back to the subject at hand. And again, ask, if you choose to take an Uber, why is it men's responsibility to pay for that choice, ladies? I mean, aren't you all adults? Aren't you all strong and independent? Aren't you the very same ones screaming, we don't need no man to take care of us? And yet, here you are, expecting us to pay for your ride. I mean, could you make up your minds, ladies? You don't get to have it both ways, at least not in the real world. The level of delusion, narcissism, and double standards of today's women really knows no bounds, does it?
Teeth whitening, it's the time, resources, energy. I love getting ready, but like girls know, getting ready for a first date, having the outfit, feeling confident, there are steps involved.
There are steps involved. Okay. Now, what's hilarious, again, is that these women cannot possibly conceive, even for a second, that there are, as she puts it, steps involved for a man as well. I know, they aren't the same. And yet, in most cases, they are. I mean, you mentioned you have to shave. Well, guess what? So does he. You mentioned you need to get your hair just right. Well, so does he. You mentioned you need to get your nails done. Well, you get the idea. Now, I'll agree that men are far more prudent and logical and know they can do all those things themselves, and thus it's not all that expensive. While women, well, as is always the case, they don't think they should have to put in the effort or have to do any of the work, which is why they pay someone else outrageous amounts to do it for them. You know, the hairdresser, the nail tech, and based on what some of my female friends tell me, that person, whatever they're called, that rips the hair off their body in some sort of sadistic ritual out of 50 Shades of Grey. And again, we need to ask, why is it in any way a man's responsibility to cover the cost of all that? And why don't his costs factor in the equation? All right, we're right back to the double standard that today's modern women have. Anyway.
And here are the post-date expenses. And I need to book an emergency session with your therapist.
Oh, I'll bet you do, especially after that guy you went on a date with passes on a second one with you because he's realized very quickly just how narcissistic and all about the money you are. But I digress.
You are going to need a back brace from carrying the conversation.
Yeah, okay, you have to carry the burden of the conversation. Let's talk about how it really goes. You go on the date and talk about yourself incessantly and how wonderful you are, never letting the guy get in a word edgewise, because it's all about you, and then you expect him to cover the cost of your monopolizing everything and making it all about you. And women wonder why men don't approach them or want to date them anymore.
I'm gonna need a ticket to a comedy show just to prove that funny men exist. It's funny, I was looking up like male comedians. I wanted to find one that was like popular but not problematic. Nearly impossible.
Well, of course it is, because with a few exceptions, most of those comedians aren't 6 feet tall with six-pack abs and six-figure incomes. And the ones that are, well, with all due respect, darling, let's be honest. They can have any woman that they want. And well, you probably aren't one of them, so...
Stop saying women aren't funny. Women are the funniest right now.
Oh, on that I couldn't agree more. And what's most hilarious of all is women's logic and reasoning. You know, the ones where women expect men to pay for anything and everything while offering nothing in return. The logic and reasoning that is why most of you can't fathom that this is what's causing men to look at you, laugh their asses off, and walk away. It is pretty comedic, isn't it?
You're gonna need a teddy bear to save you from all the nightmares you're gonna have from what you saw growing under his fingernails.
Yeah, okay. It's his fingernails that caused it. I mean, God forbid a man have dirty fingernails after working 12 hours a day in the hot sun doing things like road repair or fixing electrical line or putting a new roof on a house. And God forbid he doesn't have the time like you do to spend 2 hours at the nail salon getting a mani-pedi because he's out trying to make enough money so that you can afford said mani-pedi. I know. It's all about you and what you want, not what he wants. But let's be honest. You need that teddy bear because it's the only way you're ever going to have something to snuggle up with at night and keep you warm. Because no sane man is ever going to want to snuggle up with this mindset.
You're gonna need to drink it off with some friends.
Yeah, boxed wine sales are going through the roof, as is cat food. And I, for one, appreciate it, as I'm making a killing on my stocks in those things. So keep it up, ladies.
You're gonna need to douse your whole body in mouthwash because of the esophagus kiss that he gave you at the end of the night.
Yeah, okay, honey. You wish he wanted to kiss you. The reality is, after seeing how today's modern women are, especially on dates, most men are struggling to just keep their meal down. The last thing they ever want to do is kiss you. But you keep on dreaming.
Right, I'm not a man hater.
This just gets better and better. Funny, I've yet to meet a single woman who ever is willing to admit that she is, so... But you see, ladies, actions speak louder than words, and while your words say one thing, your actions...
I don't want to hear any of that.
Well, of course you don't, because you know it's true, and you don't want to have to acknowledge that and take responsibility for it. And as we all know, taking responsibility is to women as kryptonite is to Superman.
But the dating landscape for women right now sucks.
Gee, I wonder why.
So this is just my funny take on it. I hope this hits the women's algorithm and not the men's because damn, they can't handle it.
Oh, sweetie, we can more than handle it. We just choose not to. We see it for what it is. Pure, unadulterated delusion. Pure narcissism. And yet another beautiful example of how women overrate themselves and believe that they're the prize, when in reality, they're anything but. Look, I get it. The whole I need to do whatever I need to do to avoid responsibility thing is coming into play here. And to avoid dealing with the reality that men are just walking away and not willing to listen to your crap anymore, you're just going to say that men are ignoring you and most women like you because they can't handle it. I mean, it couldn't possibly be that women have become so toxic towards men that it is repulsing the men. Not just from some women, but pretty much all of them. Could it?
Anyway, let me know if you agree, if you disagree, if you thought I missed anything, and yeah.
Oh, sweetie, I think you did a terrific job. Not the job you're hoping to accomplish, but a great job nonetheless. You've shown men why they need to keep walking away. And to the ladies out there who are sitting home night after night, drinking gallons of boxed wine, trying to cope with the reality that the men are gone, that you're alone and no one is asking you out or even talking to you, understand this. She is a big reason why. She and those like her are representing all of you. And while you desperately want to believe that you aren't anything like her, hell, you'll even scream, "It's not all of us, especially not me." The fact is, most of you are, and then some, just like her. She isn't the exception, she's the rule. And until you all decide to, wait for it, take responsibility and hold women like this accountable, well, the best suggestion I have for you is to keep stocking up on that Franza, the Friskies, and keep coming up with those feeble excuses. Because ladies, you're going to need them.